Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge, where we're going to break down for you exactly what happened on Friday last week and why it is driving oil, energy, and defense. We've got all that and our usual list of subjects coming your way on the Rebel's Edge.
Mr. President, I'm calling to register my profound opposition to this act.
You're not happy.
What you've done in the illegal capture and kidnapping of Maduro is a clear violation of federal international law.
I'm sorry, who's this? I don't recognize this number. I don't have it in my contact at all. I don't know who this is. Says it's from Uganda. Why does it say Uganda? Is this a spam call? A service center? What
This is New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani, pronounced Mamdani.
Are you selling something? The number says Uganda. I didn't recognize the number. Who is this?
The only thing I'm selling, sir, is a promise of affordability for all New Yorkers.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I'm against what you did in Venezuela.
All right. Well, we got Maduro. Should we send someone for this guy?
No, sir.
Nasty guy. He's giving me a hard time. Nasty guy.
Don't send someone for me.
So why are you calling?
I'm just calling so I can tell people I called.
You don't want to do anything? You just want to call and kvetch about it?
Exactly, sir. That's kind of my thing.
Oh, I got it.
So I can tell people. Yeah.
You want to tell your people?
Right.
You got to tell your people. Okay, you got to say something. I understand.
Got to signal that virtue.
I understand that too.
So what you've done is wrong,
Excuse me, quiet. This guy Maduro, just so you understand, is a bad hombre, okay? He's a nasty guy. He had disastrous economic policies, bankrupted the entire country. I'm looking at his economic policy right now.
Oh, yeah, that's actually the other reason I was calling. Can I get a copy of that? For New York.
Take me off your call list, please. Take him off. Hello?
Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge, and that is Pete Najarian. That was the President of the United States talking with the New York mayor, who apparently, Pete, decided out of nowhere that it's his responsibility to call the President of the United States, who's not that busy, right? Not busy. And let me call him and tell him I disagree with going after Maduro. And by the way, he is not a duly elected leader, so it's not regime change, Pete, that they want to put in scare quotes. It's taking out a dictator. Anyway, I think we should start, Pete, probably with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? I mean, so basically over 120 aircraft go in last Friday, and the Delta team goes in with blowtorches and everything, Pete, because they thought this guy was living on a military base, okay? You can imagine that's somewhat secure, but I'll tell you what, I got a little thing for you, Pete. You don't want to buy your defense stuff from Russia and China. Apparently, Temu ain't the spot you want if you want something to protect your country and your leaders, but that's what Maduro bought.
Yeah.
That's why our guys just walked right in, apparently.
Well, it's true.
Not one single U.S. soldier was lost. Obviously, minimal. All they did was go in, Pete, take the guy and his wife out, and then just say, okay. Anything else you want us to do while we're here, Mr. President?
Do you like Brooklyn? Anyway.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, John, it's also interesting is through all of this, I think over the weekend, everybody's trying to figure out, all right, well, so what's going to happen? What do the markets look like? We had a really busy day on Friday. We had, back over 60 million plus options trading on the day. So, and it was a full day. So, interesting how that whole thing unfolded. And then obviously over the weekend with this. And so you wonder, what are the markets going to do? Well, I can tell you the markets seem to be adjusting to this pretty quick and pretty easy. And they kind of like what they see, whether it's, and it ain't just oil, John. And I know everybody's talking about oil and this and that and the other. And maybe it's copper, maybe it's gold, maybe it's whatever. Take a look at what the financials look like today. Goldman Sachs, some of these things. I mean, there is some incredible movement to the upside, not just energy, not just, other things outside of that in the world of metals and so forth, but the financials are doing really, really well today.
Yeah. Financials, Pete, defense stocks, energy is doing well, and people that help you explore for energy, because, these guys have been, by the way, folks, selling the oil that doesn't get stopped by the U.S. because there is an embargo. 67 countries have basically said this is a gangster regime that was in charge in Venezuela. And they were doing things back and forth with China. Now a bunch of oil isn't going to be going to China anymore.
Right.
And they're going to start exploiting the biggest oil reserve in the world, which is Venezuela. It's bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than the North Slope of Alaska and so forth. So this is a big deal, but it will take years, Pete, for the rare earths, which they do have, the nat gas, which they do have, the crude oil, and the gold. They've got more gold than South Africa, Pete.
Right.
So this is all stuff that's going to be playing out, and I can't wait. Well, what's it doing to volatility, Pete? Is the world really nervous?
Man, I'll tell you what, they're scared to death, John. Well, it's pretty much unchanged. I mean, here's the range today. Now, on an act like this, you would think, well, you know what? There's going to be some spook out there. People are a little scared. They get a little bit, I got to do this, I got to do that. Nope, not at all. As a matter of fact, we're sitting right about, call it 15, but the range is about the upper 1480s, all the way up to maybe the 15 and about a quarter. And then right in between there sits about 15. I mean, and that's what it looks like right now, John. I mean, it's pretty amazing. There's not the fear that I'm sure a lot of people probably expected. We're just getting into the start of 2026, obviously, so it'll be interesting. But this has been getting to a tighter and tighter and tighter spot when it comes to the VIX. At some point, we're probably going to spike up again. Something will trigger that will get it up there, maybe towards 20 again. But is that even all that scary? Not to me. Hopefully not to anybody listening out there. It happens every once in a while, and don't expect us to consider to sit at 14, 15 for the entire year. That's just not going to happen. We'll have some ups for sure, and maybe even some downs. But interesting to see that there is no reaction from the VIX essentially today based upon over the weekend.
Well, we also, Pete, have the things that are going on with the futures, which were initially kind of flat, but now the Dow is up 720 points and taken out a criminal element out of our hemisphere, a hemisphere that was basically rife with spies and agents from Russia and China and Iran. Everybody wanted in there, Pete, but now we're going to be calling the shots, not those guys. So thumbs up and great job, U.S. military. We appreciate all of you men and women that went in there and did this great work. All right, Pete, speaking of great work, here's a guy that does crap work all the time. In fact, he has finally said, Tim Walz, that he's not going to run. Oh, really? You mean the $9 billion in fraud hanging around your neck? You think that's going to drag you down? Well, take a look at the prediction exchanges, Pete. Polymarket says, is he going to drop out? Oh, yep, 100% chance he's dropped out. So that's good news for you and anybody else in Minnesota, Pete, because this guy was a bad hombre, just like the president said. He was a bad hombre.
This Polymarket thing is dead on, and it's interesting, John, because it's an open field, it seems like, here in Minnesota for the governor's spot. And, as you know, there's been a lot of people hounding me about this whole thing. That'll be something to be considered at another time. But I'll tell you what, it's really interesting now because with the possibility that he is not even running, that sort of changes the landscape, I think, in a big way for Minnesota. And it'll be interesting to see, all right, well, on the Democrats side, I think we probably know who's going to be there. But there's a long list of
sitting senator, in fact.
Yeah.
There's a hint.
Yeah. So we'll see how this whole thing plays out here for the state, John. But yeah, like you said, when you talk about the kind of fraud that's occurred and very little, if anything at all, was done to try to curb that a little bit, I would say that's a bit of an issue. And that's something that's going to be hanging over the left side when it comes to this whole thing about trying to get this thing, straightened out in some way, because there's a lot of hole that has been dug, and they've got a lot of need to get something going that's going to give them some positive attitude from the people out there that are voting, despite the fact that it's pretty much a Democratic state.
Well, and the prediction exchanges, Pete, just continue to fascinate all of us, and continue to be perhaps one of the bigger tells that there are out there. I mean, somebody bought $40,000 worth of going into Venezuela just a day or so before, and all of a sudden, bang. And I can tell you, since, as you guys know, I live in Puerto Rico most of the time. This is, by the way, the New York Stock Exchange behind me today. But the Puerto Rico, Pete, we've been hearing the jets and seeing all the ships and so forth, refueling and bringing in 10,000 soldiers and all that kind of thing. We knew this was coming, just a question of when. And then the president said, go. And they did.
They did.
All right. Let's talk about some of the beneficiaries initially, Pete, which continue to benefit. I mean, the XLE was up over 4%. That's the ETF for the energy sector. And it's pretty much everybody. Conoco, CVX, Valero was up over 8%, VLO, Schlumberger, Halliburton. I mean, it's across the board, Pete. People that are looking to get back in now that Maduro is out.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, John. I mean, you take a look at that, and you brought up the XLE. I'll give you the OIH, which is the services. That one's up an incredible jump to the upside, John. Nearly 6% still hanging on to that. And it's amazing just, watching how this whole thing is moving. And are we going to stick up here? I'm not sure. I would say this, and if you're part of that whole thing, you probably, and you were lucky enough to be in there for whatever reason, you probably trim a little something, maybe. At least it's a consideration, I would think. But I don't think this is a one-day pop. I think it's something that could be sustained a little bit longer than that. But when you get that kind of a move, especially out of an ETF, that's a pretty amazing move for an ETF. Individual names, different story. But when you got ETFs that are going up 5, 6, and 7%, that's pretty amazing, John. And I'll tell you what, copper, there's so many different factors here that we look at, and so there are metals, there's just about everything. And all of those are moving pretty nicely today.
Yeah, indeed. Well, let's talk about one that's not moving nicely, Pete, just the opposite. That would be ZBIO, Zeneus Biopharma. The name implies what they are. They're a biopharma company. And they announced, Pete, something that on the initial announcement, people thought it was good because, oh, wow, these guys came up with something that is really impressive. It had a 56% decline in the risk of flare compared to placebo, easy for me to say. But the stock had gone up fourfold already into this announcement, Pete, and people were thinking, okay, so it's 56% versus a nothing, a placebo, but that might not be enough. And so now the thing is just getting cracked, and it's down over 50% at mid-session.
Yeah, and it was an interesting report. When you go through it, you kind of see the positive and the negative obviously is starting to win out. And the fact that they're late stage, phase 3, inflammatory disorder, the whole thing. But they didn't reach the expectations on that one. So that is something that, there were some positives, but this was definitely the negative. And I think that when you look at this one, there's an understanding why it's down about 50%. It's a big move to the downside, John. But like you said, when you take a look at that chart and you see that move that it has already made, it's just kind of giving things back at this point in time. So it's interesting. Is there still work to do? Yes. And that's why you and I always talk about the biotechs in this sort of a way where when you look at it, it's great. Even if you get through phase 3, great. But that doesn't mean that you absolutely are a slam dunk for the FDA. Now, there are some out there that certainly get pretty close to a slam dunk, but not all of them. And in this particular case, you get all the way up to phase 3. You pop on phase 1, you pop on phase 2. Things are moving along. Phase 3 comes along and they slap you in the face. That's pretty much what's happening in this one today.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about GHRS then, Pete, which is GH Research. Now, they were initially, Pete, up 40 some odd percent today. And why was that? Well, number one, they weren't up fourfold like the previous stock, but they were up 40% because the FDA lifted a clinical hold on their investigational new drug application for this late stage depression therapy. Now, right now, Pete, it's only holding on to half of that, half of that gain. It's only up 20% at mid-session. So just like you said, you get these rulings by the FDA, they can spike the stock, but you better be quick to move. And if, on the other hand, it's bad news, just again, like the previous stock, it's not good.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? You not only you have to hit a home run, but you have to hit a home run to the point where people just look at it and say, well, what could possibly go wrong from here? And then maybe you've got a little bit better of a feel for this whole thing. But, you know, they did pretty well, John. They did well, I should say, in phase 2, up 40%. Everything was great. Clinical hold was released and everything, you know, turns into a big party. That's great. It's up 40%. But this is where the conservative side of people, I think, just decided, okay, that's a pretty good jump. Maybe we'll take a little bit off. Well, they started taking some off. Next thing you know, it's up 20%. And so people have cut into this thing in a big way. Stage 3 is always going to be a pivotal point in time. That's where these guys have got to get to next. And they have set the stage for that. And nothing is an absolute stamp until they give it the stamp. And so that hopefully people learn that from this ZBIO. If they learned it from that, they understand exactly what we're talking about. It is not a slam dunk until it's there. And this one still has to get through phase 3 and obviously the FDA approval group.
Yeah. Well, the fact that these stocks do move so dramatically on both these phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, that's what volatility is made for, folks. And that's why a lot of folks like taking advantage of options, because you can take a lot of that risk off the table. You can't eliminate risk completely, but you could define your risk on entry with an option rather than just, you know, either owning the stock or being short the stock and having it go against you, whichever side you want to bet on. So just be aware of that. All right. How about defense stocks, Pete? I know that we both figured, oh my gosh, the drone companies like RCAT, or AVAV, any of those, they were using stuff like that. I don't know the exact ones they were using. We know they were using Predator drones and other things, along with, God, I heard the head of the Joint Chiefs, Pete, say something about 6 or 7 different types of aircraft, from the F-22s to the F-35s, to the F-16s, to the Growlers and all the rest. A ton of aircraft were used, and a lot of them were radar jamming and things like that, so that nobody knew that we were coming until it was too late.
Yeah. Well, you know, and the big boys reacted pretty well too, John. You know, we sometimes forget about that because we've got all these new kind of entries into the whole world of defense and so forth. But, you know, you look at something like Northrop Grumman and you look at General Dynamics and some of these names, they've done pretty well as well. Now, have they pulled back a little bit? Sure. They make these big spikes and they pull back, and it's oftentimes what happens. Sometimes they sustain those things and they keep on running. But in this case, I'm not real familiar with this L3 Harris, John, tech, but that's another one where a nice big move we'd seen from some of these various worlds of the defense stocks for all the right reasons. To your point, I mean, these drone companies are obviously something of the future. Well, the future's now, and these guys are out there, to your point. So impressive what we've got as a military, and I think that's something that we're showing off a little bit to the rest of the world at this point in time, John. It just shows you how advanced we really, really are. And as the president talked about, I mean, how proud we are of our military folks that are out there, men and women and everything else. It's just been fantastic what's been accomplished. But really, really interesting. And we, you know, all of this, along with the financials, along with the energy play, along with all that, that's why you get a 600, 700 point move in the Dow to the upside. You start getting this kind of activity out there that's a big part of the S&P as well.
And you and I know, Pete, that our highest tech stuff, we won't let those military companies, the defense companies, sell some of that stuff to even our allies, like the F-35 tech. We don't let them have that. We don't let them have most of the F-22, even the Raptors and things like that. Forget about the B-2 and all the rest of some of the really high-tech stealth cloaked stuff and all the rest. But I joked about Timu and those guys being the people that sold Maduro his defense stuff. But anybody around the world that just saw what happened on Friday, they probably don't feel real comfortable having somebody else's defense stuff, knowing that our penetration of it went like that. All right. Well, I think you'll like this one, Pete, because it turns out Pete wanted to talk about the portal today anyway, folks. And the portal is, of course, what college athletes go into when they want to make themselves available to transfer. And in my day, you had to sit out a year unless you were coming out of junior college, which I did. I was coming out of junior college. But nowadays, you can basically just declare as soon as that portal opens, and a record number declared this year, Pete. So who do you suppose the big winner was? Let's see what this video says the big winner was.
Curt Cignetti is not just doing a masterful job with Indiana in the college football playoff, he's doing a very masterful job in the transfer portal. Their portal class is absolutely insane right now. Everyone wants to go to Indiana. For starters,
you gotta love, you know what? Because they're embracing the fact that he's this bitter dude, but he's turned this thing around, perfectly.
Right? And it was found out today that Nick Marsh is also committing to Indiana. Josh Hoover gets to use him as his top target. Also making a ton of moves on defense. Toby Asunsanmi is coming in from Kansas State. They're also getting an experienced DB, Jaquan Sinks from Cincinnati. They're getting one of Wisconsin's best defensive players,
these guys are crushing
Jackson, who plays safety. And we just found out recently, running back Turbo Richard from Boston College is also heading to Indiana. So the sky's the limit for this team. I guarantee you a lot more is to come in the transfer portal. Curt Cignetti just continues to prove why he's one of the best coaches in all of college football. Curt Cignetti.
He's got the opportunity, John, because of who he is and the exposure that he's gotten, that he not only coached for and with Saban, but he's a lot like Saban, right? I mean, he's, it takes him a little bit to smile, but all he does is produce, right? I mean, the guy stands on that sideline and it's like, okay, a masterful job. Now, we still got a ways to go in there. They haven't put it over the end yet, but up to now, undefeated, unbelievable. They've done an amazing job for a school that was a joke. Let's be honest. I played back a day.
Losing his team in the Big Ten, Pete. Losing his team in the Big Ten.
Well, and you know what? I go all the way back, John, with Lee Corso was the head coach at Indiana when I was there. And they pretty much stunk then. They've stunk almost throughout that entire run from the 80s all the way to now until this guy. I mean, it's absolutely amazing what he's been able to do. This portal is basically the version of free agency in the NFL, and you and I have talked about that. I don't know that I like the way it's structured. I think it's fair to have guys be able to go somewhere and not sit out a year. But should you be allowed to travel around for 5 years, going from school to school to school to school to school? I don't know that I think that's a very good idea because of the academic side of things, but also, the team side of things. I don't know. It's one of those things where everybody's got their own opinions, but to your point, so before last week, I was actually looking at this, and when I looked, there were day one, 3,753 players were in the portal. It actually topped out over 4,500 by the time it was actually open. Yep. So it's open, it's moving. My Minnesota Golden Gophers have already signed 21 guys in the portal. Just to give you a little idea. How about this number, John? Over 100 quarterbacks are in the portal when it started. Nebraska's Raiola was one of them. I had the Florida's Lagway. These are starters. These are guys that were playing on these teams that were, they were the head guy. They were oftentimes even a captain. Cincinnati had a quarterback named Sersby, 5-star guy. Arizona's got Levitt, 5-star guy. when you start looking at that, 118 running backs were in the portal as well, John. And that number probably was higher later. I just was going off of when I was taking a look at this one. But Lane Kiffin, by the way, $5 million to Sersby. He's going to be down at LSU as the quarterback. He's going to have to leave Cincinnati. I know that's going to be tough to get the hell out of there. Not really, but to get down there. But, John, how about this? So then you've got Minchie from Notre Dame. Now he's at Nebraska. You've got Becht, who's a friend of mine's son, was at Iowa State. Where'd the Iowa State coach go again? Penn State. Where do you think this kid went? Penn State. Byron Brown from South Florida went to Auburn. I mean, and these are 4- and 5-star quarterbacks that are coming out. I don't know why do you even go out and get a high school kid anymore? Don't you just go into the portal and go, all right, we've already seen what this guy's done at this level. We don't have to worry about the jump from high school to college. So what the hell? Why even waste your time with the high school guys? I don't know what do you think about this whole thing? Because it's gotten kind of crazy, and it's only going to get crazier over time.
Sure. Well, to Pete's point, folks, 3,700 scholarship players entered the portal on the very first day. And then it went up over 4,500 total players. Yeah. In other words, there are some guys that are just figuring, well, I'm not going to get a scholarship here. I might as well see if somebody else wants me. Yeah. And perhaps they will. Josh Hoover, too, Pete, another great quarterback out there. You mentioned Raiola and Sorsby. Well, there are so many great quarterbacks. And just, you don't need to look any further than the guy that led Georgia to the precipice of a national title, and then they didn't get over the hump. And now he transferred, of course, this past year to the University of Miami. Everybody thought, oh, big mistake. And all he's done is crush it. They weren't undefeated. Georgia was, but now Georgia ain't in anymore, and he still is. Yeah. So that's a big deal, Pete. Carson Beck is a heck of a quarterback, and it took none other than Saban to basically say, you know what? That team is loaded. Miami, the U is loaded. So if Nick Saban says they're loaded, and he did that, Pete, before they knocked off people in the playoffs to get here. Yeah. And nobody thought that they would have a great chance against, the likes of Ohio State and so forth. But Ohio State ain't in, and the U is in.
Yeah, it's amazing. How about the NFL side, John? I wanted to throw this one out to you. Defense still actually does matter in the NFL. And why do I say that? Well, because everybody's got a quarterback of some sort. I mean, even Carolina now, who, by the way, is going to be an interesting team to get into the playoffs and all the rest of that whole thing, right? With all that being said, defense really does matter. And let's take a look. So who's in there and who are some of the best teams right now in there? Well, Seattle, number one defense. These guys are absolute freaks. They're the number one seed in the NFC. They just held San Francisco to what was it? 3 points, I think. 3 points San Francisco scored against them, John. Unbelievable. The Achilles heel of San Francisco, and this is something we talked about last week. This is a really good football team, San Francisco. Just take a look at their record. But the problem is the defense just can't do it. Well, it got so bad that the offense couldn't do it either. And they really did struggle in that game. It doesn't mean that that's going to be the same once they get out there again, John. But as of right now, that's the way it is. By the way, the 49ers gave up 371 yards of points, not yards, 371 points. Seattle gave up 292, just to give you a little comparison there. I'd say the defenses are a little bit different. What about the AFC? Broncos, one of the best defenses in all of football. Patriots, another one, great defense. Jacksonville, outstanding defense. Houston, unbelievable. Houston started out 0-3. They were stinking it up early on, and all they ended up doing was what? Win 11, 12 games, something like that? I mean, unbelievable run that they've had. I thought Baltimore might get in, John, and be a scary team. One issue, they got no defense. They do not have a defense, and all you had to do was watch the game yesterday against Pittsburgh, and you could say, This is not the Baltimore of old. As a matter of fact, John, a lot of people talking about, hey, maybe the head coach is going to be released. He might get, kicked out. And you know what? There's going to be quite a few openings in the NFL. They'll start pretty close to now. And we're going to start
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Atlanta already did it, Pete. They already axed him.
Right. So it just shows you, the NFL, not for long, it's not just players, it's coaches too, head coaches. And the movement from last year, just take a look at unbelievably how well, for instance, Jacksonville played on offense and defense with this new coach that they stole from Tampa. It was a brilliant move, right? All you've got to do is go through each one of these teams and what they bring to the table. I'll tell you what, they bring defense, which I think a lot of fans sort of forget that. They don't even notice it. One of the reasons the Vikings stunk all year, their defense. Everybody loves the defensive coordinator, John. I gave the stat the other day to one of the guys on the radio here. I said, after the first 6 games, we were about a 500 team. The next 6 or 7 games, we lost like 6 of 7, something like that. We lost 95-62 in points. This is supposed to be a great defensive coordinator. We gave up 95 points alone in just 5 or 6 games, whatever. Unbelievable. But that's what the NFL is. You have to have a defense. Do you find this to be as interesting? And does the Bears have the defense they need to have?
Well, they didn't against San Francisco, Pete.
Yeah.
And that, that hurt, obviously. And then against Detroit, they held them under 20. You hold a team under 20 with all the rules that favor the offense, you should win. And it was 16-16. And of course, the Lions won on a field goal at the end of the game. Credit to them, credit to Campbell, playing for nothing, and they won. The Bears do still get to host, Pete, at least the first round here. The Bears get to host, and it's going to be the Packers. But which team shows up? Is it the team that held Detroit and Jared Goff, a very, very good quarterback, to 16 points until that final field goal? Or is it the team that let San Francisco run up and down the field and throw up and down the field? They made Brock Purdy look like, absolutely the next Mahomes in that game. And then, to your point, Seattle crushed them. They couldn't do anything. They scored 3 points against Seattle. So that's a big, that's the fall off, Pete. That's the difference between that Seattle defense and the Bears defense, apparently, because the Bears had no answer at all. It was just going to be whoever had the ball last. And if we had time, the Bears still would have won that one against San Francisco because, they didn't get lined up right and they didn't, throw to the wide open guy over on the right side of the field. And then sadly, Caleb Williams threw the ball into the ground. But I think it's all on the defense, like you say, and that's why my bet would be on Seattle all the way. Seattle. They are the class of that NFC West.
They are. And I'll tell you what, the Rams, as good as they are on defense and offense or whatever, it's just a little bit surprising how they finished the season as opposed to how they played most of it. But you never know what can happen in football. And if I'm not, I think I'm right on this. They're playing Carolina, right? And they have to go to Carolina. So that's it's a long trip. It's a painful trip. And B, Carolina's suddenly playing a little bit of football. They got their new coach. He's a whisperer as opposed to what we've got over in Minnesota here, where you're more critical even than me. But the quote unquote whisperer, which is the head coach for the Minnesota Vikings, who let Sam Darnold go to Seattle and he let Daniel Jones go to Indianapolis, and then we stuck with JJ, who can't stay healthy. And part of the reason is no offensive line, and the other is he's got to figure out what he's got to do if he doesn't have an offensive line. He's got to run around a little bit, and he's got to get rid of the ball quicker. That's what you got to do. 3-step drops and get rid of it. But it's going to be interesting in these playoffs. And the Rams do have a good defense. They have a very good defense as well.
Well, we thank all of you for joining us here on the Rebels Edge. We will have a recap of what happened today and what's happening tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. We hope you join us then, and have a great afternoon, everybody.
Bye.